Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something practical, super strategic, actually.
Yeah, it's about communication, but specifically how to correct someone or persuade them without, making things worse.
Exactly. We're looking at this concept, drawing from sources, exploring the Vietnamese idea of Nikatut Kam Hoa Bang Lay Nuk No Tur.
Which translates beautifully, something like the art of persuasion through subtle reminders.
Right. And our mission here is to figure out how you can inspire real change in people.
Without triggering that immediate defensiveness we all have. We want the shortcut to, well, communication that actually lands.
Because that's the big question, isn't it? Why is it that when you tell someone exactly what they did wrong, even with perfect logic,
Yeah.
it often falls flat or backfires?
Yeah, it really does. And the sources jump right into why. There's this observation from a student who noticed something crucial.
What was that?
Well, they realized the more direct they were pointing out flaws, the more people just sort of pulled back, became distant. The term used was sakach.
Ugh, pulling away.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar. It's like a defense mechanism kicking in.
Absolutely. You think you're delivering helpful truth, but they hear it as an attack.
So what's the psychology there? Why that reaction?
The sources pinpoint this thing called our natural instinct of pride. It's fundamental.
Yeah.
So when criticism comes directly at us, our logical brain kind of takes a backseat. We don't actually process the content of the criticism very well.
What do we hear then?
We hear the noise of our own ego, our self-respect. The sources call it tune-eye, feeling threatened. It becomes about us, not the issue.
So it stops being about the mistake and turns into an emotional thing about, like, am I okay? Am I respected?
Precisely. And that destroys the psychological safety needed for anyone to actually learn or, consider changing. Their goal instantly flips.
From understanding to just defending.
Exactly. Defending their identity, their sense of self-worth. And if they're busy defending, they're definitely not listening. That's why the core wisdom here is crystal clear. You have to let them save face. Always.
Okay. So if direct confrontation, the sort of shout and point method, hits that wall of pride, what actually gets through? How do you bypass the ego?
The answer, according to these sources, is all about subtlety, indirectness, and, crucially, respect.
Right, which leads us to this idea of teaching by action, not just by telling people off.
Yes, persuasion by showing the standard, not just demanding it. And we've got a couple of really great historical examples that illustrate this perfectly.
Let's hear them. The first one involves Charles Schwab, the industrialist.
That's right. So Schwab walks into one of his factories. He sees workers smoking right under a no smoking sign. Big no-no, huge safety risk.
Okay, standard procedure would be, what? Yell at them, write them up.
For sure. A typical boss would have done exactly that. Immediate reprimand, maybe worse. But Schwab knew that would just create resentment, defensiveness. Not real change.
So what did he do instead? This is the subtle part, right?
Super subtle. He didn't scold them at all. He walked over, greeted them like normal, friendly even, and then he gave them each a cigar. A good one.
He gave them cigars while they were breaking the no-smoking rule.
Yep. And then he just said, really casually, something like, "Boys, I'd appreciate it if you'd smoke these outside."
Wow. Okay, that's unexpected.
Totally unexpected. And brilliant. That gentle reminder, combined with the respect shown by the gift, it put the responsibility right back on them.
They must have felt kind of foolish. Ashamed, maybe.
Exactly. They felt ashamed themselves internally. They self-corrected on the spot. And, importantly, they kept their dignity. They got to get dint, save face.
So Schwab used wisdom, not power, to get the change he wanted.
Yeah.
They chose the right behavior.
That's the key difference. It wasn't forced obedience, which is often temporary. It was a genuine shift because it came from them, prompted by his respectful, indirect approach.
That makes me think, how could you apply that today? Say, someone on your team keeps missing deadlines.
Right. The standard approach is the reprimand. Maybe it works once, maybe twice, but the relationship suffers.
But the Schwab way, maybe you over-deliver on your part of a project. Show them the standard by doing it yourself, visibly, and then praise the bit they did get done on time.
That's exactly the principle. Show, don't just tell. Which brings us to the second case study. John Wanamaker, the department store guy.
Right, Wanamaker. What happened there?
So Wanamaker is in his store, and he sees an employee basically ignoring a customer, being careless, neglectful.
Okay, and what did Wanamaker do? Did he pull the employee aside?
Nope. Said nothing, not a single critical word to the employee. Instead, he just quietly walked up, stood next to the employee, and started serving the customer himself, perfectly, showing exactly how it should be done with total care and attention.
Ah, the silent demonstration.
That's what the sources call it. Teaching by example, da bong den jiao. The employee sees the gold standard right there, sees their own failure by comparison. The correction happens without a word of scolding.
That action spoke louder than any lecture could have.
Way louder. It's like, this is the standard we uphold here, not you were failing.
Yeah.
It maintains that crucial emotional safety.
Okay, this is fascinating. So we've got avoiding the ego clash, teaching by example, but sometimes you do have to give verbal feedback.
Right, and that's where things can still go wrong, even with good intentions.
Which brings us to the language itself, the linguistic hack. You mentioned we often mess it up with just one word.
One tiny three-letter word. But.
The classic feedback sandwich killer. Tell me more.
Think about it. How often do we do this? Hey, great job on that report, really thorough, loved the data, but...
The formatting was all wrong, or you missed the deadline. Yeah.
And what happens the moment you say but? Or nung in Vietnamese?
Everything before it just vanishes. Like it was just fluff to soften the blow.
Exactly. It's an emotional eraser. The listener mentally discards the compliment. They brace themselves because they know the real message, the criticism, is coming next. Defenses go right back up.
So the positive part is totally lost.
Okay.
But what's the fix? It sounds almost too simple.
It is deceptively simple. You replace but with and.
Just swap but for and. How does that change things?
It completely reframes the message. Instead of negating the positive, and or va, connects the positive to the area for improvement. It creates continuity.
Okay, run that report example again, using and.
All right. Hey, great job on that report. Really thorough. Loved the data. And if we can get the formatting tidied up to match that high standard, it'll be absolutely perfect.
Oh, okay. I see that. It feels different. It feels like building.
Yes. You're building on their success. You're suggesting an addition, an enhancement. It implies they're already good, and this next step makes them even better.
Instead of, this part was good, but this part was bad.
Precisely. You're speaking to elevate nang rather than diminish how. It keeps the encouragement flowing.
So, avoid direct criticism, teach by example, and swap but for and. What else? We talked about subtle reminders.
Right, which leads into the art of gentle suggestion. It builds on everything we've discussed. Criticism closes the heart right. Encouragement opens it.
Makes sense.
So how do you plant an idea for improvement without actually making it sound like a criticism you came up with?
Good question. Is there an example for this too?
A really touching one, actually, involving Lyman Abbott, a well-known clergyman, and his wife.
Okay.
Abbott was preparing a very important eulogy, a funeral address. He read the draft to his wife, and she felt, in her heart that it just wasn't quite right. It was missing something emotionally, maybe spiritually.
What did she do? Did she say, honey, that's a bit dry? Or you didn't capture his essence?
She could have, but she knew that might shut him down or make him defensive about his work. Remember that pride instinct?
So the subtle approach again.
Exactly. Instead of direct critique, she used gentle suggestions, focused on possibilities, not flaws.
Like what?
Maybe she'd say something like, that passage about his childhood was lovely. And, I was just remembering that funny story he used to tell about the fishing trip. Perhaps something like that could fit somewhere.
Ah, she's planting a seed. Not saying your draft is lacking,
Right.
but offering a potentially better alternative for him to consider.
Precisely. She created the space for him to realize the draft needed work on his own terms. She didn't deliver the correction. She guided him to find it himself.
That's powerful, because then the change feels like his idea.
Exactly. He owns the realization, so he owns the change. It comes from internal motivation, not external pressure. That kind of change sticks. A quiet, nuanced phrase can do more than a whole lecture.
Okay, so let's try and pull all these threads together. We've got avoiding the ego clash, teaching by example, the and, not but rule, gentle suggestion. What's the common denominator here? What's the core of this come-a-whole art?
It all boils down to a really deep, respectful understanding of human psychology. The fundamental truth is, everyone wants recognition. Everyone wants to maintain their dignity, their self-respect, to save face. You just can't ignore that instinct.
It's non-negotiable, basically.
Pretty much. So if you accept that, the strategy becomes clear. You have to approach that sense of self-respect, that tutrung, with honor. You treat the person as if they're already capable of the better way.
You create the conditions for change to sort of bloom naturally from within them.
That's a great way to put it. And for us as the communicators, the skill is knowing what to say, when, and crucially, how to frame it. The goal is for the message to be received by their heart and mind.
Not just bounce off their defensive shield.
Exactly.
So the mission, really, if we want to influence people positively, is to learn to speak in a way that makes them want to listen.
Instead of making them want to argue or shut down or just defend themselves, yes.
That sounds like a much better way to interact with people generally.
It is. The sources talk about using words with long N-I, with humanity, with kindness. Your words should be like a light,
Showing the way.
showing a better path, illuminating possibilities, not like a knife cutting into someone's ego.
That's a powerful image. And it brings us to a really potent final takeaway quote from the material.
Which one is that?
A sincere compliment can open a door that 1,000 criticisms cannot. It really encapsulates that idea of respecting the person first.
Beautifully put. It respects that guarded threshold of pride. You approach with respect or you don't get in.
Okay, so before we wrap up, let's leave our listeners with something to chew on, a provocative thought.
Absolutely. Here's something for you, the listener, to reflect on today. Think about your own feedback patterns. Just for the next 24 hours, consciously notice, where do you automatically reach for the word but when you're giving guidance?
Whether it's with your team at work, your kids, your partner, a friend.
Anywhere. Just notice how often but comes up when you're trying to correct or suggest an improvement.
And then the challenge.
Yeah.
What might actually change, measurably change in those relationships if you made a conscious effort, just for a day, to swap but for and.
If you approached it like that thoughtful artist we talked about, skillfully, humanely, what doors might open?
Give it a try. See if you get more collaboration, less confrontation. It might surprise you.